Hi everyone, it's me, Spring, the fiber enthusiast, and welcome back for another tutorial. This is going to be a knitting tutorial, and as you see, it looks like it's going to be another scrunchie. It is! If this is the first scrunchie video that you are watching, there are 3 others. Another knitted one, a Tunisian crocheted one, and a regular crocheted one at the time of this video. All right, so some of the items that you're going to need is some sock weight yarn. Now what I have here is a bunch of scraps from other projects of making socks, and what I did was link them all together and made myself a scrap ball of sock yarn. All of this yarn is Cozy Toes yarn, so it has a lot of stretch to it. Now we're going to be doing this scrunchie. The way that it's different than the other knitted scrunchie is the other one was DPNs, and this one will be done on magic loop using a longer cable. Now for my case here in front of you, I'm using a 4mm, and the cable length or the entire length of this circular needle is 32 inches. Now I do have another one that I am currently working on that I will switch over to show you how to do your repeats once you get going, once we start this and get going on it. It is approximately 28 inches from needle tip to needle tip. So depending on the size of your hair ties and how far out they stretch will depend on how much yardage you would need or how much sock yarn you would need. That also depends on the needle size that you're using. It's going to depend a lot on those two things. So I use 2 hair ties, and that's in case one happens to break. I also use hair ties that are not hot glued together. There's no metal clasps. They're just a solid ring, so there's less of a chance of them breaking. So that's what I used. I got a huge packet of like 100 of these off of Temu a while back. And this is what I use them for. You'll also need a pair of scissors and a darning needle to sew the 2 ends together. So go ahead and grab your stuff, or if you're just watching along, that is perfectly okay as well. Thank you for watching my video. I appreciate you and your time. So I'm going to go ahead and get out a little bit of tail yarn here, and we're going to start casting on. Now I will be doing a long tail cast on. You can cast on however you feel most comfortable. Now I will be doing a total of 31 stitches as my cast on. So if you would like to go ahead and cast on 31 stitches, you are welcome to do so. You also could narrow it down and do a total of 21 stitches. The extra one is just simply so that way we can link them in the round, and it will drop down to 20 or 30 stitches depending on what your cast on number is. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to cast on until I have a total of 31 stitches. Once I have that, I will be back and we will work the next part together. Okay, so I have my 31 stitches here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide them down onto the cable about halfway. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to count 15 stitches over. So we're going to go and start over here on the beginning cast on stitch, and we're going to count over 15 stitches. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 15. At that point, We're going to separate them out so that way you can see that cable in between. You're going to fold your cable in half and split those stitches, 15 on one side and 16 on the other. Now we're going to slide those stitches all the way down to our needles. So we're just going to slide them all the way down onto our needles like this. Okay. Now I'm going to turn these so that way the needle tips are facing my left-hand side at this present moment. And I want to make sure that I turn these stitches so that way they're all facing the same direction. So that way all of the ridge is on the bottom here on both needles. So now I'm going to slide those up real close to the end here. I'm going to place my hair ties on one of the needles. Now I'm going to take that extra stitch and remove it now. And how I'm going to do that is, so I'm taking that very first cast on stitch and I'm going to place it over on that back needle over there. Now I'm going to take the last cast on stitch. Let me take my darning needle so I can show you here. Taking that last cast on stitch, if I can get a hold of it. And I'm going to pull it over the top of the one I just slipped. Okay. Now I'm going to slip that stitch back to the original needle. Now we just dropped that extra stitch. Now I'm going to turn my work so that way the needles are facing my right hand. I'm going to adjust my tail thread, my tail yarn, the right way so that way it's positioned and ready to work. To do that, you need to bring it up and over so that way it's in the center of your two needles. Now you're going to pull that back needle out and into working position. Now I'm going to zoom out so you can see the loops that I have going on. So here we have a loop on the left side of our work and a loop on the right side of our work. Now what you're going to do is knit to the end of your row. That's all there is to all of this. We're knitting in the round every single time you change, you change your needles around, you're knitting all the stitches. That's all we're doing is knitting the stitches. And now this is a little bit tedious with your cast on stitches as always. All right, that's my last stitch. So I'm going to turn my work over. And I'm going to begin working this side. Now, when I begin working this side, I want to take notice of where my hair ties are. My hair ties are to the left. If I lay my working yarn across my needles, it is to the left. My hair ties are on the left-hand side of those points of the needle and your working yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up and work this side of my cast on stitches, and then I will be right back. Okay, so here's where the magic happens. I'm at my last stitch. I'm going to knit my last stitch. Do not remove your needle from the hair ties. This is how it will look in your hand. Do not pull it out this way. Leave it this way. When you finish that row, your needles will look like this. Leave it like that. Grab the point of the needle and pull it all the way through the hair tie. Now you can turn your work over and slide that cable down into your stitches. And that's where the magic is of doing this on magic loop. Now, if we look at our stitches and our working yarn and our hair ties are on the left-hand side of our working tail of yarn and the points of our needles. All right, I'm going to grab one that I've been working on so that way I can show you a little bit better. That is not my favorite set of circular needles over there. It's very slick and very blunt and very aggravating to work with. So I want to bring in one that works a whole lot better for me. And as you can see here, I am set up with my hair ties already on the left-hand side of the tips of my needles and my working yarn. Okay, so I'm just going to knit to the end of the row. As I said before, we knit every stitch. This is just a knit pattern. No extra flare. So I'm knitting all the way to the end here. Once I have reached my last stitch, I am not taking this needle out the back side of those hair ties. I'm just pulling it through and turning my work over. That automatically will put your hair ties to the left of your working yarn right here. Now I'm going to slide the stitches back up onto this needle and pull the back needle out into working position. Now we'll do this again. We're going to work through this side. Again, you're just going to knit every stitch. All the way to the end of the row. Once you've reached your last stitch, you're going to grab that needle that is no longer holding stitches, pull it through your hair tie, turn your work over, slide your hair ties away from the point, slide your stitches back up onto the needle, that front needle, and pull your back needle out. And as you can see, once again, your working yarn is to the right of your hair ties. Your hair ties are to the left, and you can continue working, knitting all those stitches. So that main thing that is where all the magic happens with doing the magic loop scrunchie, is when you get to the end of the row, you pull the needle through and the cable through those hair ties, so that way your hair ties are on the left-hand side of your working yarn. That is all there is to that. I'm going to go ahead and continue working on this, but I am going to give you a little idea as to how to finish this. We're going to finish it the same way as the previously knitted scrunchie. So we're going to continue to work that same repeat all the way around until you can stretch your fabric out and your hair tie, and the fabric goes all the way around the hair tie and meets up with your beginning edge of your knitted fabric. At that point, you can cast off and sew the two ends together, and then your scrunchie will be done. I'm going to continue to work on this until that point, and I will be back to show you just a reminder of how to sew those together. Okay, so once you have made your fabric, as long as you so choose, and you can stretch it out all the way around, and it meet up, like bare minimum, meets up with the elastic hair tie, stretched out as far as possible, that your two ends, when it is completely unrolled, meet together. That's bare minimum. Longer is better. It'll give you more fullness in your fabric around your hair tie. But if you want to just do it to that point, that's perfectly okay. The next step is to simply cast off. Again, continuing to make sure that your hair tie is to the left of your working yarn. So to cast off, you're just going to do it the same way you would with any other project that you are casting off from. Knit one, knit your second one, and cast that second one, or the first one, over the top of the second one. Knit your next one and pick it up and pull it over. So you're going to continue to do that all the way around. Now, I did use much larger needles for this sock yarn than what it is called for, and I used 30 cast on stitches, so 15 on each side. When you are going to do yours, if you haven't started already, you may want to cast on a little less or use smaller needles. This particular tutorial was to show how to do it in Magic Loop mainly. That was basically what we were after, was the fact that you could do it Magic Loop as well versus using DPNs. So I'm just going to continue casting off these stitches here. Almost done with the first side. And then again, you're going to do just like you were doing. You're going to pull that needle all the way through, turn your work over, shifting your hair ties to the left of your working yarn. And now slide that needle down into working position, down into those stitches. You're going to cast off the rest of these stitches, and I will meet back up with you. All right, casting off the last stitch here, just like that. I'm going to pull up a little bit of a loop here, remove these needles out of the way, and we'll take a look at what we have here. You're going to want to make sure that your fabric is all even and going the same direction here. So that way, when you go to sew the two ends together, your fabric is not twisted. You want to make sure that it's nice and flat. So I'm going to go ahead and cut away from my working ball of yarn. And then all I'm going to be doing is working around this fabric, both ends of the fabric, and just whip stitching all the way around until I come to the very beginning of where I started. Once I've done that, then I'll sew in my ends, and that will be the end of this scrunchie. And that is how you will do it if you want to do it using the magic loop versus DP ends. All right, everyone. I hope that you have enjoyed yet another scrunchie tutorial. If you are looking for other scrunchie tutorials, Tunisian crochet, regular crochet, and other knitted style as well, there is a playlist that I have begun collecting different tutorials in. So you can go ahead and check that out. That will be in the upper right-hand corner at the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you make anything, any of the scrunchies or any of my patterns, or just want to share your work with us, I would love to see it, and so would others. You can share that in our Facebook group. You can also email it to me, or share it on Instagram and tag me in it. I would love to see it. All right, everyone, be blessed, be a blessing, and until next time, bye for now.